Hey everyone, welcome back to Wicked Sports and the Miami Minute, where we cover my favorite team, the Miami Dolphins. And of course, it's been a very up and down year to be a Dolphins fan. That much is clear. Where it seemed like they were going to be horrible, and then they came back and were just mediocre. And Tua got benched, and then at the end of the season, Mike McDaniel was in, then he was out, and ultimately he was fired. And the Dolphins had to look towards the future. A lot of people wanted Harbaugh. That didn't happen. Obviously, he went to the Giants. Not entirely clear if that was ever really in the cards because what they did do was hire Jon-Eric Sullivan to be their new GM, replacing Chris Greer. He was the vice president of player personnel for the Green Bay Packers from 2022 to 2025, and he was with the Packers in various roles all the way back from 2004 until the Dolphins got him. So I actually really like what we've heard from him so far. It's clear that he understands where the Dolphins have been lacking the last, I guess, 25 years, but specifically the last few years under McDaniel, where he had this great quote where it was like, in the cold, speed gets slow, but size doesn't get small. And he wants to focus on the offensive and defensive lines, which, music to my ears, music to the ears of many Dolphins fans who have really gone through the last couple of seasons lamenting the fact that the Dolphins were, for lack of a better term, a soft team, especially in the cold, in bad weather. And unlucky for them, because of previous rivalries, when the league realigned the conferences, or rather the divisions, they were stuck in a division with three teams playing in the Northeast, the Patriots in Massachusetts. Obviously, horrible weather. If you watched this past weekend when they played the Texans, that was gross weather. I live in Massachusetts, so I got to experience it firsthand. Not fun. And then Buffalo, also not bad. Granted, Buffalo will be having an indoor stadium starting next season, so maybe it doesn't matter as much as it did in the past there. And then, of course, the Jets are outside. Weather can get pretty terrible, though they did host the Super Bowl one year, but it was pretty cold and gross. The Seahawks won. Seahawks might win the Super Bowl this year, even though they're not in the craziest outdoor conditions. Anyways, getting entirely off track. But I do agree that the Dolphins need to be a tougher team, need to be a meaner team, and need to be a team that doesn't fall apart when the weather is inclement. And if that really is how Jon-Eric Sullivan feels, then I think that it could be a very successful tenure for him with the Dolphins. I mean, we needed basically the opposite, right, of what they had. And looks like we're going to get it. And you know what? It almost also looks like that we're kind of turning South Beach into Green Bay South when we hired the Packers defensive coordinator, Jeff Hafley, to be our new head coach. So Hafley, I mentioned, from Massachusetts, his first job in any football capacity was in 2001. He was the running backs coach for Worcester Polytechnical Institute, WPI, which is very exciting. And he's been everywhere since then. Albany, Rutgers, with the Bucks, with the Browns, with the 49ers, with Ohio State, was the head coach of Boston College. Not a great tenure, granted, 2020 to 2023. That was smack dab in the middle of the pandemic. So what are you going to do there? Then he goes to the Packers and is a defensive coordinator. And I have seen a lot of people who were fans of other NFC North teams who were a little distraught, or not distraught, a little enthusiastic about the fact that he would no longer be in the NFC North, which I think is good. And then there were Packers fans, on the other hand, who were jokingly talking about perhaps sabotaging his ambitions by putting out fake hit pieces, fake rumors about any misdeeds to get other franchises not interested in his services. Ultimately, that didn't come to fruition, fortunately, for the Dolphins, and we are going back to a head coach who's primarily a defensive minded guy, which I think is probably right. I do think, we've kind of shifted away from the days where offense was just falling out of control. And really, we kind of get caught the last crest of that wave with McDaniel, with his innovative offenses. So I think this is a very interesting situation, especially because the Dolphins will probably, not even probably, the Dolphins will be looking for a new quarterback going into next season. And wouldn't you know it, the backup quarterback for the Packers, the man who has filled in admirably for Jordan Love, will be a free agent. And, I won't blame you if you're getting a little bit of flashbacks to Philbin, coming from Green Bay with Matt Flynn, another highly touted backup set to hit the free agency market. And then that didn't happen. He went to Seattle and ultimately didn't end up even starting at Seattle because Russell Wilson was a rookie and came in and blew the doors off of the QB competition. But, I do think that it's likely that Malik Willis will be the starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins going into next season. And I think it could be interesting. Malik Willis was a prospect who a lot of people said could potentially be pretty solid, but he's going to be more of a project. The Titans obviously were not patient with that. They moved on from him rather quickly, adding Will Levis, and then obviously the regime that added Levis got disbanded. Now Mike Vrabel, head coach then, now the head coach of the Patriots, and Levis didn't play all last season due to an injury that questionable whether or not it was real or it was a calculated move. And then they drafted Cam Ward, who I do think will be much better. Obviously, a little biased, being that I cover the Miami Dolphins, and that kind of lends to me having a soft spot for the University of Miami. But what do you think about the potential of Malik Willis coming to Miami, being the quarterback going forward under his previous defensive coordinator and now head coach Jeff Hafley, and under the new GM Jon-Eric Sullivan? Can be interesting. I do think there's room for optimism. And you know what? If it doesn't work out, we'll have a good pick next year when the draft is a little bit stronger for quarterback. So let me know your thoughts about all of this. I'm Brian. This has been Wicked Good Sports in the Miami Minute. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe. We have new videos coming out every single week, as well as a lot of shorts, almost daily shorts here, as well as on our TikTok account, which is, of course, Wicked Good Sports as well. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Be sure to check out my work on dolphinstalk.com if you somehow haven't gotten enough of content from me from this channel. All right. Thanks for watching, guys.